All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. I give thanks for Allah, who came in the person of Master P.O.W.E.R Muhammad, for giving me the opportunity to come and speak, or to giving me the inspiration this morning to speak. And I'm just going to read to you what I read, which inspired me to speak today. So it's from Philippians 4, verse 8, and it says, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things." And I thought, that is, to me, in a world where there's lots of negativity, and there's majority of everything, you speak to somebody or you have a thought in your mind, and as soon as you have that positive thought, the negative comes in to try and counteract it. And so that's where it inspired me to speak about positivity and about, you know, lifting our spirits and lifting our thoughts. And it says, think on these things, the good, you know, the just and the true and the honest and of good report. Think on these things, because these are the things that will take us forward. So last night we went to, like Freud was just saying, we went to WYLA's celebration, their fundraising event. And two things stuck out for me, because on a whole, because it was packed, it was a packed event, so at least, you know, people are supporting us doing for self. You know, which is what I thought that was amazing. But two things stuck out for me that last night, and the first is this sister. I saw her, met her in the afternoon. She said to me she was going to sing, and we didn't really go into anything. I needed to go to the cash point, so she just asked if, you know, she can come along, and we did, and we were just chatting about everything else. And it turned out that when she did perform, she was singing opera. Now, she was singing opera, and her son is 17, and he was playing the cello. And the thing that I thought was amazing, because she has a beautiful, beautiful voice. It was beautiful. And even at the end, Brother Leo had to remind us that we are the originators of that sort of music as well. And one of what she said, she dedicated the evening to her grandmother, who had recently passed this week. But she said when she was younger and she wanted to sing, she was discouraged. Because number one, black people don't sing classical music as far as we know, you know. And in our community, being Caribbean and everything, it's not something that we look at. And she said now, years later, she's come and she's done it. So in my mind, I'm thinking, it's never too late. I spoke to her after, said it's never too late for us to do the things that we want to do. You know, be inspired by these people, and be inspired just by the fact that you have a dream or you have a talent and you can actually bring it forth. Sometimes it just takes a little bit, and that's where, you know, we think on the good things, think on the things that are lovely. Whatsoever is lovely, think on these things. You know, don't forget the negative that people might come along with. And the second thing that inspired me was this 13-year-old boy. His name is Elijah Frederick, and he's just published his first book at 13. He did it when he was 12, and it's been 3 years in the making. So he's done a little book. It's called Shifted Code, and he said it's about him. It's, well, you know, he's putting himself there aren't any black books for black children, and that's what inspired him as a young reader when he was 10 to start to write a book, because he loves writing. And I said, you see, you have both sides of the spectrum. You have one side where there's no support, you know, where the sister didn't have her support. She was discouraged from doing what she had to do, and it's taken her all this time before she can bring forth her gift. And this young man who's supported by his family, you know, at age 10, and other mentors he's had, but his parents and those mentors have encouraged him to go and follow his dream and his path. So you know, they say negativity is the enemy of creativity. And this is what, yeah, and this is what it is. His name is Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker, and he says, and it's probably an African proverb, you must be willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. And so it's for us to dig deep and bring up that, you know, do the things, go that extra mile. You know, like Floyd said, I finally got him into the gym, praise be to Allah. But for me, that's my journey. My journey is to become fitter, you know, to lose a little weight. And for me, that means some mornings getting up at 5:30 and leaving the house at 6:30 to get to the gym for 6:45 to do 45 minutes workout, leave from the gym, come back home, get ready, go back to work, maybe do some overtime depending on what I have to do, come back home, cook, look after my children, and do what needs to be done, look after my family. Sometimes that sacrifice is necessary for us to achieve the goals that we need to achieve. Yeah, we have to achieve, we have to make those sacrifices. And in Proverbs 6, and I found it's funny because I was looking, I heard it, but there are 3 parts in Proverbs that says this. The first one is Proverbs 6, verse 10 to 11. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth, and thy want as an armed man. In 2013, it says, love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. And then in 24:33, it says the same thing as what it says in 6, verse 10 to 11. And in my mind, I'm like, what does that mean? And it's almost like we are taught that prayer is better than sleep. Because when you sleep, you don't achieve anything. Do you know what I mean? We sacrifice. We have to get up in the morning when it's cold and we go outside. Even last night, Brother Leo mentioned the Asians back in the day. I wasn't here that time, but people used to speak about the circles around their eyes. But now who have the shops? Who've got the houses? Who've got the businesses? Whose children are, you know, reaping the benefits of all those circles around their eyes? It's them. And so we have to get out of the I'm not a morning person, or I'm not a this person, where we have that negativity. We put negativity again back in our minds. No, we have to be positive about moving forward and be willing. And if it's about asking a friend for help or asking somebody to support, how do you do such and such? And, you know, I find it tedious, I find it this. Talk to each other. But we have to take that negative off of us. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, are pure, are lovely. Think on these things. Okay? And then when we set out now to do these things, we have to remember that we are not of ourselves. Because that's the other thing. We cry and we say, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I? How am I? And we forget that we are not the author of our own lives. Allah is the author of our lives. And we can never do these things on our own. And we need to lean on Allah for guidance, for strength, you know. And we need to pass it on to Him. In Surah 19, and that's Maryam, or Mary, it starts, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, sufficient, guide, blessed, knowing, truthful God. Imagine that's how it starts. Sufficient, guide, blessed, knowing, truthful God. If it's sufficient in the dictionary, let me just get that. Adequate for the purpose, or enough. Allah is enough. He's enough for us to do whatever we want to do, whatever we set our minds to, whatever we think that, when we think that we can't go through something, Allah is enough. He is enough. Yes? Psalm 46 says, God is our refuge and strength. So that is what He's saying to us. He is enough. He is our refuge. When we've lost our way, when things get difficult, He's our refuge. Go back to him. We cannot do anything of ourselves. I remember yesterday we were driving and I was saying to Floyd, I was giving him one of my goals, by 45 I want to do something. He was like, by the grace of Allah. I said, I know this. I've never ever done anything or said anything without Allah being in the midst, around me. I said to him, Allah is around me, he's up in me, he's all over me. Yes. And so by the grace of Allah, you know, he is sufficient for us. Truthful God. And what he says in Proverbs 3:6, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And if he's truthful, that is what we need to follow. In all our ways acknowledge him. All our ways. He'll direct our paths. So we need to make him first before all else. And then if it doesn't feel that way, we reconnect. Floyd said we come on a Sunday and it's that reconnection. You know, sometimes you're trying to get onto, we have our phones now, we have smartphones, so you're trying to get on a website and for whatever reason you don't have that connection and it just keeps buffering. And you have that circle going around and round and round and it keeps buffering and you're getting frustrated and it's buffering because nothing's happening. What do? We switch off the phone, we restart it, we reboot. We come back again, and that is what we have to do, is reconnect. When we are moving away, when things don't seem to be, come back and reconnect, because we do lose our way. We do sometimes forget that Allah is right there, and we try and do things of our own. It's natural, I do it too, you know. Sometimes you just keep going and it's like, why isn't this working? No, you just need to stop. Step up, take a step back, take it to Allah and leave it in his hands. Move forward. The answer will come, and that is what he always does. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. When we are making that connection as well, there's yes, Denzel Washington, go back to him. He said, just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. So he also continues, don't confuse movement with progress. So you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is actually making you progress. To actually, you're getting gains from it, because you could be running in one place, you're moving. You're running, you're doing jogging, when sometimes you're in a class and you're jogging in one spot. You're moving, but you're not progressing. You're not making any head inroads to anywhere, right? So when you do make that movement, make sure you're progressing. It has to be positive, it has to be targeted. In business, there's a thing called SMART objectives. So you have specific, has to be specific, has to be measurable, it has to be attainable, it has to be relevant, and it has to be timely. When do I want that to happen? Yeah, so when you are making those moves, it has to be that. Remember Allah in the back. In 2 Chronicles 20, it talks about Jehoshaphat, who he heard the armies were surrounding them, and he went to the Lord with it. He didn't do anything else. The first protocol was the Lord, and he was delivered. Years later, he joined with another man who they called him a wicked man, and started working with him. Their works did not prosper, because he moved away from God. Whether it was 35 years in the making or whatever, he moved away from Allah, and his works did not prosper. So my thing is, Floyd said, one day in the scriptures is like 1,000 years in a lifetime, and our works are going to continue. The need for works are going to continue, because we have a lot to do. A lot to do. 1,000 years, a long time, is going to be way after we've passed, our children have passed, our grandchildren have passed. It's going to be long. And so while we're here, I'm going to just read and end on this scripture, which is from Surah chapter 94, Al-Inshirah, the expansion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, have we not expanded for thee thy breast, and removed from thee thy burden, which weighed down thy back, and exalted for thee thy mention? Surely with difficulty is ease. With difficulty is surely ease. So when thou art free from anxiety, work hard and make thy Lord thy exclusive object.